All right, guys. So, hi everybody. How are you guys doing? And thank you very much for coming out today. As you guys know, I'm Cohh. I'm here today. Uh-oh, just got a little bit of audio feedback. We should be fine though. I'm here today with Darrin McPherson and Omeed Dariani. Really appreciate them taking the time to come out here. Before we begin, I just want to again point out to everybody, I've been streaming now on Twitch for almost a year, and I have, attempted to work with some companies. I've, worked with some and kind of gone through different things. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt that Sony has been one of the most just really a phenomenal company to work with when it comes to streamers. They are doing things that, frankly, other companies, they're so far ahead of what other companies are doing that it's almost like a completely different ballgame. So before I begin, I just want to give a huge thank you to Sony for not only giving us streamers the opportunity to do things like this, but more importantly, doing it in a way that's professional, that's quick. I mean, it's just, I can't say enough good things about it. And considering where I've come from, just in some cases wrestling with other companies trying to show their product, it's just such a breath of fresh air. So big thanks to Sony for letting this happen.
And thanks to you for letting us on the show too. I mean, I was talking to some folks yesterday about how we feel about Twitch, and we really feel like Twitch streamers, the good streamers, are the absolute opinion leaders in gaming right now. And we feel like the people who tune into that are absolutely the opinion leaders of customers. Yeah. So, we feel that it's more important for us to come talk to audiences on Twitch than basically to be anywhere else.
And the accessibility of this too. I walk from my desk over here. Minutes later, we're talking to the fans. It's super easy, and I don't have to. There's not an interview process. There's all sorts. It's just simple.
Yep.
It's great.
Just fantastic. Just fantastic. Well, excellent. Well, before we begin, would you guys like to do just a quick introduction? We could start with Omeed and kind of then just go right into the questions.
Absolutely. So my name is Omeed Dariani. I'm the senior brand manager for the EverQuest franchise. So that's EverQuest, EverQuest 2, EverQuest Next, and Landmark.
Yeah, and my name is Darrin McPherson. I am the lead game designer for EverQuest Next and for Landmark. Both those titles.
Oh man, I hear EverQuest Next and I get the tinglies. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay.
Yeah, and I wish we could tell you some of the stuff Darrin has showed me. We'll be showing, a little bit later in the year when we get to like SOE Live and stuff. Yeah. Oh my god, it's amazing.
And just to let everyone know, as you guys very much know, there's certain things that we can talk about and certain things we can't. Now today is very Landmark focused, so there won't be a lot of EQ Next stuff, but yeah, we're very much looking forward to that in the future. It's going to be great. It's going to be just phenomenal. So, without further ado, guys, let's get right into it. So to start with, you guys have laid out a very extensive roadmap for this project, and it's taking it in directions that, frankly, the world really hasn't seen a product like this when it starts moving down the line. I mean, we're talking about the first opportunity for players to actually really craft what other players are experiencing. This is potentially an endless pool of content that could get out there. Now, with that in mind, how is the roadmap looking, and how is everything progressing in terms of how you guys want it right now?
So, we just went into closed beta yesterday. There's a lot of momentum here on our team to get things out to the players, out to all of our audience, because it is. We're doing something that no one has done before. There's been games that have done similar things, but not necessarily, not to the scope, and certainly not with our roadmap, right? The roadmap including, players being able to make content for other players. This is a very, very crazy concept. It's something as a game designer we've always thought, user-generated content is that sort of holy grail. We have some strange audio feedback here.
Yeah,
sorry.
we're just hearing the echo on his side.
I'm very loud or something.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really cool about it is this idea that we can give players all the tools they need to entertain each other. Yeah. Like normally we have to do all the heavy lifting, and the only time players get entertained is by the content we make. And we're so excited because, I mean, just looking at the stuff that got built in alpha. And we're so far away. We don't have AI built in. We don't have a lot of the tools built in that are coming. And to see what people have done and how they've already sort of eclipsed our expectations is just stunning.
This was the expectation, right? That players would eclipse the things that we do. I've been a game designer for a long time. We've been in the business of this for a long time. But some of the buildings, some of the things that people have created have come up with is astounding. And we knew this to be the case because we are involved in other communities of people who create mods or who take a game to another level. And we knew that this was going to be, so we wanted to make a game for those people. So the roadmap is coming along well. You're going to see during closed beta a lot of updates. We'll caverns and combat, and we'll talk about those things. If you ask questions about them, we'll talk about it today.
Excellent, excellent. That leads us perfectly into the next question. So one of the things that has really impressed me so far with this game is kind of like the different pillars of gameplay. Right now you can go out and you can harvest anywhere in the world, deforming the terrain however you want, dig holes through mountains, get anything, chop down trees. You also have the crafting component where there's actually a huge amount of progression. I mean, this is a pyramid of different things to work through as you get towards the end of the game. And then finally you have the just exceptionally extensive building system, which is really the kind of the showcase right now. But something that's kind of interesting is with these caves, we're going to be adding kind of this fourth pillar. We're going to be bringing in exploration. So it's going to be kind of like almost an addition completely to the game. So how are these going to work? How is this going to affect us?
So you say it's a different pillar, and while I would agree that that's a viewpoint that you could have, one of the things that we've always planned on is that caves are part of the system. Exploration, crafting, and combat make up this game, Landmark, and make up EverQuest Next as well. And so what we're doing, what we gave in alpha and what we have in beta right now is just the very tip of the iceberg for exploration. So we're going to just flesh that entire that pillar out. It's going to change everything. It's going to change how you craft. It's going to change the materials that you're looking for, how you get the materials, because right now all the metals and the stones are all on the surface. So, and we did this because obviously digging underground is not going to be fun. But when the underground areas are saturated with caverns, and each one of these layers is broken up into different biomes. Groupings of materials. Like I'm in a jungle. I'm in an underground jungle right now. Underground jungle has specific things that are inside it, specific NPCs that are there.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. I don't think we've actually talked about it in much detail. Is that so? This is good for the show, right?
Absolutely.
That the underground areas have biomes to them.
That is mind blowing. I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be caverns underground.
Well,
so you're saying.
There'll be caverns, but you'll be I'm in a jungle cavern now because look at the plants and look at the flora and look at the NPCs and look at the treasure that I got here. It's specific to the jungle.
Yeah, makes sense, right? Because the biome will go, the whole world goes all the way down. So the biome naturally would.
Although not necessarily. So if you have jungle on the surface and you dig down, whatever those measurements are. Oh, I'm now in an underground desert. Mm-hmm. And this has a totally different layout, different materials, different NPC. It's crazy. Yes.
Wow.
So exploration is, when I've talked to people, exploration is the biggest part of this game. To me, it is. It is endless.
And I think too that one of the things, and we thank everyone who's joined us in alpha and starting to join us in closed beta. Like we appreciate it so much, but. The game right now, it's missing, one of the fundamentals that games have, right? An element of risk. Yeah. Like when we play games, right? Like there's always this threat that I'm going to fall off something.
Risk versus reward. Absolutely.
Lose my way, and that's going to cost me something. And right now, it's not present in the game. And once it's in the game starts feeling a lot more real.
Yeah, that loop, that gameplay reward loop, will be in very shortly. You'll see. What we have is the very tip of the iceberg.
Oh, this sounds phenomenal. So are you guys planning on having a parallel edition of the cave and the kind of I don't want to call it the combat system. I'm assuming the risk is probably a better word for that, as I'm sure there will be other hazards. But is that going to go in tandem, or is this going to be sequential, kind of serial?
A lot of our updates are going to be sequential. The exact timing of when the first bit of danger is going to enter the world and combat whether or not those line up is not something that we can necessarily address right now. But the completion of the gameplay loop of me going and exploring and finding things and having something pushing back the conflict that you have in combat or with danger is all going to be seen very soon by players.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So one thing that we've talked about a little bit is, the first thing that's coming is basic combat, right?
Yeah.
It's not the full combat. So could you tell us a little bit about what that means?
So our first iterations of combat are going to be, as Omeed said, relatively basic. There's going to be NPCs out there. We haven't been talking a lot about story bricks. Certainly when we talked about Next we did, but story bricks still works with us, and they're still working on Landmark. And so we will have some pretty cool AI for the NPCs, and we'll roll out new types of NPCs, and we'll have a basic, I can kill them, they're going to drop things that I care about. You're going to be using abilities, and the way the combat system is going to work is very similar to the way items work. When you equip a pick, you're firing an ability when you hit your mouse button. When you equip a sword and you hit your mouse button, it should operate the same way. You're going to be you swinging your sword, and anything in that arc is going to get hit.
Interesting.
The things that players see now with plant harvesting is could feel very similar to what swinging a sword is like. Right, you equip that sickle, you get your cone targeter, and you swing and you hit the stuff that's there.
So that
anyway,
is very much kind of changing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, keep going.
That's very much kind of that's not kind of the standard today for MMOs. It's almost that for a lot of games these days, it's much more of a passive system where you kind of set your character up and you can almost watch it play out in front of you. But this sounds like almost more of almost an action take on it.
Well, I mean, there's lots of pies that you can lump us into, and so it certainly is not not a first-person shooter. Your cursor, for instance, is not locked. When you have a pick, you can move your cursor around. You can target different things. When you have a sword, you can move your facing around, and where you're clicking is where you'll swing. So it's a different thing. We're doing a lot of things, as you know, very differently in this game.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about it more in EverQuest Next, but it's going to hold true in Landmark, right, is that there's a level of kineticness to fighting, right?
Yes.
There's a level of moving around and positioning. In a lot of MMOs, including our other MMOs, right, it is much more what you're describing, Cohh, where it's, static, like, I'm going to tell my character what to do, and then we're going to basically roll some dice and see what happens. Like, we want the player to have agency over the situation a lot more in both of these games.
Right. The things that you do matter. Things that you do moment to moment matter. So getting that moment to moment gameplay is something that we're going to really strive to that players really enjoy swinging their weapons, just like they enjoy, big. Should feel the same way. And of course, your combat abilities will impact the terrain and the area, and the things next to you, and all of those things, just like mining and tools do. One of the things that we want to stress is when you equip in EverQuest Next, we've announced this, right? In EverQuest Next, you pick a class. You can have any of the classes that you want, and you can choose to specialize in a class. But when you've chosen a class, you have a weapon. So when you use that weapon, you get specific abilities based on your class and weapon that you're using. And in Landmark, it's going to be a little different. When you equip a spear, the spear is going to give you an ability. Now, that ability might be to throw the spear, or the ability might be that I charge forward 10 feet. And if something's in between me and where I'm charged, they're going to do damage. So we're putting a lot of things that you would think were class abilities onto items in Landmark, and you'll be able to use those. Play with them. I've got the Cleric's Hammer, and the Cleric's Hammer, as an example. I'm not saying there's a class in Landmark. How about the Priest's Hammer? Right? I swing the Priest's Hammer, and it does a little AE damage in front of me. But I get a different hammer, and when I click it, it throws the hammer out in front of me, or it calls lightning down in front of me, or it does something. And so this functionality is something that players will be able to use and go, you know what? Sometimes I like using the Cleric's Hammer, and sometimes I like using the Priest's Hammer. It's fun for them to choose which abilities they want. Then, of course, armor